Okay, 8:3. They are trusted concerning wheat, but they are not trusted concerning flour or bread. They are trusted concerning the sarah of rice, but they are not trusted concerning it, either raw or cooked. They are trusted concerning beans, but they are not trusted concerning pounded beans, either raw or cooked. They are trusted concerning oil when they say that it is of Maisa Ani, but they are not trusted when they say it is of Nikuf olives. Excuse me. They are trusted concerning raw greens, but they are not trusted when they are cooked, unless he had a small quantity, for it is custom of the householder to take out from his stew pot. Excuse me. Sorry. One may not give the poor from the threshing floor less than half of a kav of wheat and a kav of barley. Remeah says, half a kav and a half of spelt, and a kav of dry figs or a manna of fig cake. Rabbi Akiva says half of a log of wine. Rabbi Akiva says 1/4 of a quarter of oil. Rabbi Akiva says 1/8. And any other produce, Abba Shaul says sufficient to sell them and purchase it with food for 2 meals. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Okay, so now all of these measurements that we have now refer in Mishnah Vav. Mid zo amar Rabbi Kohanim b'Levim u'Yisraelim. So it doesn't matter who the farmer is, whether he's a Kohen, Yisrael, or Levi. It's these same measurements are mentioned. Why would you have thought differently? Because you might have thought that since the Kohanim and the Leviim themselves, their livelihood
Mhm.
is of a stam case of Kohanim and Leviim is that they're getting their chumas and masras, and that's how they're getting their living. So we said that we don't make any distinction between Kohanim, Leviim, and Israelim. Okay, Haya Matzil. Now, what happens if he wants to save for a family member? Remember, Peah Leket and Shikha, you can't discriminate. You can't say, I'm only going to let my cousin in because he's an ani and I want to make sure he
Mhm.
gets the best thing. That's not fair. You can't do that. But with Master Ani, that's a discretionary thing. You separate your Master Ani and you can give it to whichever Ani you want to. So let's say you've got a farmer over here who's, he's got the anium lined up outside his granary, but he thinks, well, what about my cousin who's like, stuck at home, he's sick and he can't get out. So I want to give some of this to him. So that's matzil. He's busy saving for other people that he wants to give to. Notel mechzo v'nosen mechzo. He's what he can do is he can give half. He can leave half of it for the anium, and half of it for his relative. Okay. Um, the higher higher lo dava muat. However, if the amount that he has is very small, nosein lifneihem v'hein mechalkin beinehem. So if he's got this big old pile of aniyim outside his granary door, and he hasn't got enough maser ani to give to all of them. If that's the case, then he can just take the whole maser ani and put it in front of the aniyim and say, guys, you sort this out.
Yeah.
Um, see if he and there's another day in the Yerushalmi that's even after he's taken off what he wants to give to his family, and then the remainder he can put in front of
Okay.
the remaining aniyim. Okay. Ein pochasin le'ani ha'over mimakom lemakom mikikar v'pundion me'arba si'in basela. So here we have um, a, a, um, a nomadic ani who's going from place to place, and you've got to make sure that he doesn't have less than um, a loaf of bread that was bought with a pundion when the loaf is made with excuse me when arbas in basela when you have when the price of wheat is at 1 seller for 4 se'ah. Okay, obviously this is going to fluctuate from time to time, but basically it's a meal. Um, let's just see arbas in basela. How would we translate that nowadays? It's basically the enough food for 2 sodas.
Two suitors. Okay.
So it's basically 2 sodas akati. So it says up here, and that comes from Erevin. Maseches Erevin actually lays that out that the kikar b'pundion the loaf worth a pundian is enough food for two meals. Lan. Now, what happens if the ani is staying overnight in your city? Noslin lo parnasas lina, and you should give him somewhere to to sleep. In other words, a bed, cushions, and a blanket. Okay. Um, Shabbos, Shabbos, if he stays there for Shabbos, okay. Noslin lo mazon shalosh sudos, then you have to make sure that he has enough for three sudos. Okay. Mishi shlo mazon shtei sudos lo yitol min tamchoy. Okay. So now we're introducing another concept, which is the tamchoy. The tamchoy is a food basket,
Right.
basically for people who are really desperate and who need food. Mamish now they need food. Okay, so people and people donate to the tamchoy. They give food. So if somebody has enough food himself, and ani, he's very poor, but he's got enough food for two sodas right now, then he shouldn't take from the tamchoy, because the tamchoy is for people who are mamish hungry, who don't have two meals in their cupboards. Okay, that's how bad it has to be before you take from the tamchoy. Mazon arba Esrei sudas lo yitzol min kupa. So now the kupa that's intended more for the general aniyim, who need some support, but slightly longer term. We're talking about 14 meals is a week.
Right.
Basically, so even though you have three sudas on Shabbos, the third meal on Shabbos basically makes up for supper on Motzei Shabbos, because that's that's going to be really a snack, seeing as you've had a late meal already on Shabbos. Okay, so those 14 meals means basically he's got enough food to last him for a week. If somebody's got enough food to last him for a week, then he shouldn't be taking from the kupa shel tzedakah either. Okay, but kupa nigbeis b'shnaim u'mischalekes b'shlosha, and the money in the kupa is must always be gathered by two people, because you want to have you've got to have oversight. Right. This is when you have monetary. Okay, we actually saw that also now in Shkalim.
Right.
Okay, so in Shkalim we also see that you need to have supervision, because you don't want anyone whispering about how come just one person's collecting the money, what's he doing with it.
Right.
So having two people to collect the money is important. And when it gets given out, this is iskei mamon, and it has to be given out by three people, because it's got to be like a based in, because you've got to determine who needs to get the money and who doesn't. Now the kupa is given out is collected with two and given out with three, but the tamchoy, we say in the footnote over here, he points out that the tamchoy must also be collected with three people, because the tamchoy is hand to mouth. The asherim give food to the tamchoy, and it must immediately be given to the aniyim who need it. Since it always has to be given out with three people, you want to make sure that you've got three people before you start collecting, so that you don't have to bother with now finding a third person to go to give to the aniyim who like need a meal now.
His obligation is to give to the ani. So his obligation is to give him 2 meals during the week and 3 meals for Shabbos. When Shabbos comes, would it be okay for him? Would this fulfill his requirement if he said, "Come eat by me tonight, and tomorrow you're going to go to Ruvain's house, and then for Shalosh Judas you're going to go to."
Same
thing. You don't have to.
That's exactly the same thing. So instead of giving him the money for the food on Friday, you can say, "I'll set you up for meals on Shabbos."
Okay, so
that's another, and that I would venture to say that's even better.
Probably, yeah.
Because he gets the company, he gets to enjoy the Lebedecker discussion, whatever. That it could be that he's got his own family, and he wants to spend the time with his own family. So whatever, all in the
all right, but he's able to do that. Okay, all right.
Yeah. Okay, Misha Yeshlo Masayim Zuz. If somebody has 200 Zuz liquid cash, Loitol Leket Shicha Peah or Maser Ani. That has taken him out of the gather of an Ani. If somebody has 200 Zuz of liquid cash, then he shouldn't be collecting Matanas La'ani in Bichlal. Okay? Hayulo Masayim Chaser Dinar. If he only has 199, Afilu Elef Nosnim Lo Ka'achas, even if 1,000 people give him one, give him a dinar, or let's say he's allowed to take, but as long as it all comes in one donation. Because
Right.
right now he's at 199. So after this, he's going to be at 1,199. but but at the moment that he accepts it, he's still technically defined as an ani, so that is okay.
Right.
Okay. However, if he has property that is mortgaged, either to a creditor or to his wife's kasuba, so therefore it's not liquid. He's not allowed to sell it. So
Right.
he's got okay. Hareza Yitol. So he has money theoretically. He has assets that are worth more than 200 zuz, but they're mortgaged. Um,
So he
then
should.
he is allowed to. Then he is also allowed to take matanas laniyim. Okay. Ein mechayvin also limkor es beisov es klei tashmisho, and we do not obligate him to sell his landed property or his clothing or things that he uses during the day, like his cutlery and his tools
Right.
and things like that. Okay. So if he has some assets that considered luxuries, then we would say, listen, you're sitting here with I don't know, some keepsake or some silver candlesticks or whatever it is that, and you say, and you're coming in and crying poverty, sell those, and be real about this, and don't come begging for things when you've got assets that you can sell. However, if it's things that he needs for day to day, that we don't obligate him to sell. And furthermore, if he has, if he, um, okay, but if he comes to take from the kupa shel tzedakah, um, אין מאשים לו ליטול אפילו לקט שכו פאה עד שימכור כליו היפים ויקנה אחרים פחותים מהם. So let's say he's got like Versace suits and Yves Saint Laurent and whatever, and he says, listen, I've got to wear clothes, and you say, okay, that's nice that you got to wear clothes, but these clothes over here are you don't have to be wearing the fanciest suits if you can sell them. And I don't know, nowadays, like secondhand clothing, the value kind of
Right.
drops a lot, but in those days, I guess secondhand clothing is not much worse than firsthand clothing. So you can sell the fancy clothes and buy some simple clothes and live off the change before you start coming onto tzedakah. As we'll see, that there's a big stigma to accepting tzedakah, and the Mishnah, as we'll see tomorrow, gives a bracha to somebody who, despite needing tzedakah, refuses to accept it. It says that tavo alav bracha. It's a good thing not to take tzedakah even when you're justified in taking it, and I actually observed. I don't know if you've noticed this as well, but when you see somebody standing at the door asking for tzedakah, you can see that there's something about his telem elokim that's gotten lost. That it's a shameful thing when somebody has to come asking for money.
Right.
Some people have become so addicted to asking for money that they've become brazen about it. But if you're standing in shul, and let's say if you go into a strange shul and you look around and you see that there's a guy, there, there's a guy's got a certain look on his face, and you can see that this guy's going to be going around asking for money,
Right.
or he's going to, at the end of the davening, he's going to clap on the bimah and say, please, here's my situation, whatever.
Right. Right.
You can see there's something has happened to his face, that he no longer looks confident, doesn't look like a
Right.
mensch so much.
Right.
So Shalone Da, we should never have to know such a tsar.
There's a gentleman, I don't even know his name, but he would come to Avizion and in the morning, and the story was pretty much always the same, but it was a true story. I mean, he was just really like, this kid was sick and this kid was sick, and it was one thing after the other. And I asked my friend George, he said, no, this has been going on for a long time. And they checked with Rabbi Cooper, and he said, yeah, this man is really, his family is really in trouble, kind of, you could tell just by the look, and the way he talks and all. But he's always very nice, thank you so much. I really, and some guys always say, give a little more maybe, or, that always got me, and they would say, can you give a little more?
Yeah.
Rabbi, I think Rabbi
Yeah.
Haber one time said that, all right, so give me back what I gave you, kind of thing. Like
Mm.
yeah. Anyway, there was a man. I don't know if I ever told you the story. There's a man by that hotel used to sit, and a friend of mine went, and this was years ago, and he gave money to this man, no, to the woman, rather, to the woman, and he asked for more, and he said, no, he gave him a nice, little bit of tzedakah, and then as he was walking away, the it was the wife he gave to. The man down the street, down a few steps down, said, "You should really give us some more." He said, "What do you mean I should give us some more? Why are you telling me that?" I said, "Because she's my wife." You know. At that point, he said, "No, no, no, oh,
Oh my gosh.
you know,
Yeah.
true story." But anyway, all right, we're on
Yeah.
Peah. We're on Vav Aleph.
We are.
Beit Shammai says the renunciation of ownership in favor of the poor is a valid renunciation of ownership. And Beit Hillel says it is not a valid renunciation of ownership unless it is declared ownerless in favor of the rich. Also, as the Shemitah. If all the sheaves of a field are a kav each and one is 4 kavs and he forgot it, Beit Shammai says it is not shicha, and Beit Hillel says it is shicha. A sheaf that is close to a stone fence or a heap to cattle or to implements and he forgot it, Beit Shammai says it is not shicha, and Beit Hillel says it is shicha. At the beginning of a row, the sheaf up opposite proves. If the sheaf that he held to bring into town was forgotten, they agree that it is not shichacha. Okay,
Okay.
good.
Brachas.
Um, Skilled workmen read while on top of a tree or a row of bricks, which they are not permitted to do in reciting the Shema. A bridegroom is exempt from reciting Shema from the first night until the first Saturday night. If he had not performed the deed, it happened in the case of Rabbi Gamil that he read Shema on the first night following his wedding. His disciples said to him, "Have you not taught us, our master, that a bridegroom is exempt from reading Shema on the first night?" He said to them, "I shall not listen to you to absolve myself from the kingdom of heaven, even for a moment." He bathed on the first night following the death of his wife. His disciples asked him, "Did you not teach us, O Rabbi, that a mourner is forbidden to bathe?" He said to them, "I am not like the rest of men. I am a delicate person." Okay. I have people sometimes they come like at 10:30 at night, at 10 o'clock at night, and I'm not into opening the door at that time,
This is not the right time now. Oh, we had, I mean, we had, while my family was a Corona hotel, I put up a sign on the door with a, welcome to the Bear Corona Hotel with a, the drawing of a guy with a plague doctor,
right.
that sort of pointy nose thing. And some guys didn't get the memo, and they're like knocking on the door and asking, it's Stuka. And like my daughter calls out to them, Nachnu Malon Corona. And like, what? And they can't, Lo Shomim, opens up the door. It's just, we've all got Corona. Ah! And it runs.
Okay. I think the Tybergs did that to me. The Tybergs, it was last week when I had to do, last week or the week before when I had to do Kiddush Levana. So his son was standing outside. He has a long walk up, anyway, he was standing outside and I waved him to come, so, to Shalom Aleichem. And as he started to say it, his father waved him back, get back, get back, get back. So I didn't know what was going on. He don't had Corona. The whole family had it. So I asked him the next day, I said, did I do something wrong? Was I saying the wrong thing? Did I do something? Was it the wrong time or what? He said, no, we all have Corona. So I said, I couldn't imagine what was going on. You called your son back, like, get away from the strange guy. Couldn't figure out what's going on. Wow. All right. I just read a terrible thing. This man was a new immigrant. I picked up the newspaper for my wife and bring it. I see the title. He's a new immigrant, a rabbi, and he got Corona and he died. So now he's buried next to his son who was killed. It was a soldier, an IDF soldier. I'm so afraid to go out. I'm just like.
But you've been vaccinated.
I know, but I know people we have friends who are vaccinated twice, all that stuff. They waited the 2 weeks and all that. They have Corona.
How severely?
Not so bad, but they have Corona. Yeah, not so bad.
Yeah. There's no telling, but
It's so scary. It's just
Yeah.
anyway. I know you don't like those headlines. I know you don't like those. So, if one immersed there in a bed, even though its feet were sunken into thick mud, it becomes tahor because the water comes first. Regarding a mikveh of shallow water, one can depress therein even bundles of wood or bundles of reeds so that the water rises, and one can then go down and immerse himself. If a needle was placed on the steps of a cave and one moved the water to and fro, as soon as the wave passes over it, it becomes tahor.
And in fact, that is the recommended way to tovel a needle.
Yeah, I can't imagine the idea of stepping into the mikveh when there was a needle there. Just the land
No,
of
but
Israel.
imagine but like, yeah, okay, now you've got like good lighting inside the mikveh and
Right,
nice
right,
clear water that's been filtered and whatever. But you want to take a needle and and tovel it. Um, if you can't hold it between your fingers because that's going to
right,
be a chatzitza.
right.
So you put it. So you could either put it in your hand and lower your hand sort of loosely in your palm, or else you put it on the steps and wash some water over it, and
Right.
that's fine.
Right. The land of Israel is Tahor, and its mikvos are Tahor. Mikvos of Gentiles outside the land are valid for Balkari, even if they were filled by a canal. Those in the land of Israel outside the town gate are valid for Nidos. Those within the town gate are valid for Balkari, but are invalid for all others who are Tameh. Eliezer says those near a town or a road are deemed Tameh because of washing clothes therein, and those distant are deemed Tahor. The following Balkari requires tefillah. If one saw a dribbling fluid or an opaque fluid at the beginning, he is tahor. In the middle or at the end, he's tameh. From the beginning till the end, he is tahor. If it was white and stringy, he is tameh. And Reb Yossi says white is like opaque. This okay. Caleb. Okay. Hey, bait. A stove, its beginning is 3 finger breadth, and its remnants are 3 finger breadths from the time its manufacture is completed. What is considered the completion of the manufacture? From when one heats it enough to cook on it the most easily cooked egg, which has then been beaten and put into a stew pot. So this is saying that even if finish comes out of the kiln and it's all ready, until you cook it the first time, it's not really
No,
considered.
no, it's because the stove actually is not considered finished. It's not. You fire it internally in order to harden it.
Right, but this says from when one heats it. When is it considered the completion of the manufacture? From when it
Right.
heats
So
it.
it starts out as a clay, as just like raw
Oh,
clay,
I
and
understand. I
then you make a
understand.
fire inside, and the fire itself not only cooks the food but also finishes the oven or the stove.
So they're putting the food, the egg on top of this thing while it's in the kiln. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. So if we're not in the kiln, the oven and the stove don't go into a kiln at all. They get fired internally.
I thought when you take a clay pot, you have to put it in a kiln
Clay
to.
pot, yes. Clay pots, yes. The kalim that you put your food in, yes, you need
Right.
to put them into a kiln. But the oven and the stove have an internal flame themselves,
This is
so
a stove. Right.
they get baked by their own fire, and that's inside them.
This is a stove. All right.
Yeah.
Um, if kupak, if one made it for baking, its measure is that of an oven. If one made it for cooking, its measure is that of a stove. A stone that just juts out from one hand breadth from the oven, or 3 finger breadths from a stove, it is a connection. A stone that juts out of a kupak, if one made it for baking, its measure is that of an oven. If one made it for cooking, its measure is that of a stove. Rabbi Yehuda says they only said 1 handbreadth between the oven and the wall. The 2 ovens were adjacent to each other. 1 handbreadth is allotted to one oven and 1 handbreadth to the other oven, and the remainder is tahor. The rim of a stove is tahor. The enclosure of an oven, when it is 4 handbreadths high, it contracts tuma via contact and airspace. But less than this is tahor. And if it was connected to the oven, even on 3 stones, it is tameh. A flask receptacle and the spice receptacle and the lamp receptacle of a stove contract tuma via contact, but do not contact tuma via airspace. These are the words of Rav Meah, and Rav Yisrael rules them tahor. Okay, so this stove, yeah, this is the stove here. This where's my camera? Here it is. Has a
Yeah.
little pot on top of it there
Hmm.
of the rim. So Must be heating tea or something. I don't know. Okay. I said I didn't finish that. That we finished four. We finished Dalit, right? No, we
Did you
finished.
do Dalit? No, you haven't done Dalit.
Oh, I need to do Dalit. An oven that was heated from the outside, or that was heated without his intent, or that was heated in the artisan's workshop is tamei. It once happened that a fire broke out among the ovens of Kefar Signa, and the case came to the Yavna, and Rabbi Gamil ruled the ovens tamei.
Or at least susceptible to tumor, because now that they've been baked, the fire wasn't intentional, but Lamasa, you now have finished ovens and they're susceptible to tumor.
Okay, Baba Basra. Dalit Gimel. One who sells a house has sold the door, but not the key. He has sold the old fixed mortar, but not the portable one. He has sold the pedestal of the mill, but not the flour catch, nor the oven, nor the stove. When he said to him, "It is it and all that is in it," they are all sold. One who sells
Interesting, just an interesting thing there that if he sells the house, he hasn't sold the key, and you think like, what?
I know it's strange.
What are you going to do with the key? The reason is because the key is metaltalin, but so technically it's not part of it. But I guess the thing is that with I don't know I really don't know well what the technology of locks was in the time of the Mishnah. Like how exact were the locks? Or they just like the sort of the blank keys that the Israeli houses tend to have, that one key fits all. Because like if you have the like the front door key is like nobody else in the world has got the same front door key as you over here. So like what on earth are you going to do with that key?
But we had a mission that showed different locks, different kind of locks. Remember that?
Yes, that's right. Yes, that's actually also is that in Kalim? Yeah, I think that was also in Kalim. Because
we had two or three missions talking about different kind of locks and all. Right.
Yeah.
One who sells a courtyard has sold the houses, pits, ditches, and vaults, but not the movables. When he said to him, "It and all that is in it," they are all sold. In any case, he has not sold the bathhouse or the olive press which are in it. If Eliezer says one who sells a courtyard has sold only the airspace of the courtyard. One who sells an olive press has sold the grinding block, the millstone, and the post, but he has not sold the boards, the screw, or the beam. And when he said to him, "It and all that is in it," they are all sold. Rav Eliezer said, one who sells an olive press has sold the beam. Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Scholar. Reb Eliezer says that which was contaminated by a primary tumor, whether inside or outside, should be burned outside. But that which was contaminated by a secondary tumor, whether inside or outside, should be burned inside. Rabbi Akiva says, whenever it became contaminated, there it is burned. The limbs of the daily offering were placed on the lower half of the ramp on the western side, and those of the additional offerings were placed on the lower half of the ramp on the eastern side, and those of the additional offerings of Rosh Chodesh were placed on the ramp below the karkav of the altar. The mitzvos of Shkolem and the first fruits apply only in the temple era, but the grain tithe, the animal tithe, and the laws regarding the firstborn animals apply both in the temple era and the post-temple era. If one consecrates Shkolem or first fruits, they are consecrated. Reb Shimon says if one consecrates first fruits, they are not consecrated. Okay.
And he said halacha is like Rabbi Shimon. Hadron alach maseches shekalim.
Yoma.
Yoma.
Okay. Aleph. 7 days before Yom Kippur, they sequester the Kohen Gadol from his house to the official's chamber, and they prepare another Kohen to serve as his substitute, lest he becomes disqualified. Rabbi Yehuda says they also prepare another wife for him, lest his wife die, for it is said, and he shall make an atonement for himself and for his house, that is his wife. They said to him, if so, there is no end to the matter.
Right. So you say you're getting a little bit too paranoid because somebody becoming tamei, okay, that happens. Right. That can easily happen to somebody in one night. He suddenly becomes tamei and now he can't serve. But for his wife to die, no, you're getting a little bit too suspicious.
Probably
a little too paranoid there.
Probably
then you're gonna have to. Then you're also gonna have to make another wife. Get another wife ready in case.
Just in case, right.
Both of them die. Once you're going for remote probabilities, then you're going to drive yourself nuts.
I probably asked him to get another job, find something else to do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shaw. Have a great day. Enjoy, and I'll
My
see you
pleasure.
tonight.
You
It's
too.
Hashem.
See you tonight, Mitzvah Hashem.
It's Hashem.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Bye. You too.